Today we're out here in the field when we've got some partridge pea seed germinating. So we wanted to make a video of what partridge pea seedlings look like, how they come up, and a little bit about the plant. So let's get started here. I'm gonna dig some up, bring it up here to you. Is that in the frame good? Yeah. All right, so we got several different seedlings in this shovel here. These will be some ragweed seedlings. This is probably some crabgrass or foxtail. The ones we're looking at that are partridge pea are these larger, fleshier leaved ones. So these are the two cotyledons of the partridge pea seed, or the two halves of the seed. As they come up out of the ground, they'll make two leaves. The two first are cotyledons. This one here is a little bit more developed. You've got these two cotyledons down here, and then you have the legume-shaped, pea-shaped leaves up top that is their true leaves. They're non-cotyledon leaves. So the way the partridge pea does is when you plant it and it's sitting there on top of the ground, here's one that hasn't germinated. I don't know if you can quite see that. It's kind of a squarish shape with rounded corners. So kind of a rhombus square shape. If you notice, the first cotyledons to come up are much bigger, but shaped roughly the same shape as the inside of the seed. And the reason that is the seed coat. It comes up wearing that like a hat, and then the seed coat fall off. It breaks in two and falls off, and the seed, the meat inside the seed, is actually the two cotyledons. The root then heads down into the ground from the base of the stem below the cotyledons there, as you can see. So with forb plants, forbs or legumes, you cannot find the seed husk necessarily to identify the seed like you can with grasses. And I'll show you that in another video on how to identify different seedling grasses. So your partridge pea has big fleshy leaves. They're somewhat square shaped like the seed they came out of. Their next set of leaves is more the fine frilly leaves like you would see on an adult partridge pea plant. And they will continue just to grow more layers and levels of these adult leaves. The cotyledons will eventually dry up and go away. The reason partridge pea is kind of a significant one when it comes to germination is, at least here in Missouri where we're at, it is one of the first native forbs to germinate. So it's an indicator species a lot that I use. When can I do my last dormant roundup? Things like that. When I start to see partridge pea, it's time to get out and start checking your fields, because things will, depend on the spring, will either germinate shortly after or within a few weeks after.
Partridge pea, it's one of the first seedlings in a native planting to germinate, which can be really handy to learn how to identify it for a number of reasons. One is you're really anxious to see how your native planting is doing. Well, this is a wonderful one to look at if you included it in the mix. Another reason is sometimes we want to check our black pot technique, which is another video you can watch about how to analyze whether or not the seedlings have germinated in a planting. But maybe you want to check whether that's really working or not. Well, you can check for partridge pea germination in the field. Maybe you want to do some management in the field that requires the seed to have not germinated yet. And so you want to know whether you've got germination. Partridge pea can be a great indicator, and of course you want to use any indicator with caution, but it's an indicator. So how do we tell it apart from the other weeds and other things that are germinating? We're going to go through some characteristics of the seedling, and then we're going to go to the field and actually look what it looks like out in the field. So I have with me a partridge pea seedling, and you can see the soil level here. We've got it cut away, but the soil level is right here, and we've got our little seed leaves, or the fancy word for them is cotyledons, right here. So two big circular shaped leaves. And then the characteristics we're really looking for are above that. So what characteristics are we looking for? The first one that we're looking for is that there's so many little leaflets to this seedling. And so the general characteristic, rule of thumb, I guess I could say, is there will be between 8 and 20 some seed of these little leaflets. So these are technically called leaflets. This whole thing is a leaf, and then these are leaflets on the leaf. So there's between 8 and 20 some of these little leaflets on this leaf. And most plants don't have that, these opposite leaflets. The leaf arrangement is some other type. More like, you know, the cotyledons down here look very typical for a seedling to have leaflets of. But these opposite leaflets are kind of characteristic, and they're really characteristic of the legume family. So legumes is just a family of plants, and of course they're famous for their ability to fix nitrogen and in conjunction with a bacteria. But this legume family often has this leaf arrangement of opposite leaflets or leaves in sets of 3. So partridge pea, being a legume, has this typical leaf arrangement. Okay, so opposite leaflets on a leaf. There's 8 to 20 some of them on a leaflet. It's going to start out smaller, like towards the 8 region, and then it's going to move up on subsequent, you know, more leaves. Plant gets taller and taller. It's even when it's a big mature plant, it's going to have those leaflets that are opposite from each other with, you know, 8 to 24 leaflets roughly on them. That characteristic stays the same. So we have that look to it. The next thing that I'm going to look at that's very easy for me to analyze is this round stem on it. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to destroy this seedling. Sometimes in order to analyze things, that's what you get to do. But when I pull it out and I roll it between my fingers, I find that it rolls between my fingers. Sometimes the stem of a plant is actually quite flat and it won't roll between your fingers. You know, picture like rolling, you know, a piece of paper that's been rolled up as opposed to like one that's been flat, squished flat, right? I can roll this between my fingers. So a round stem, of course, would make sense that we can roll it. It's not football shaped, it's not flat, it's round. So that's a good sign for that we have a partridge pea. So the shape of the leaves, and then I'm like, okay, I think maybe I have a partridge pea. I pick it, I roll it between my fingers. If I want to get even more in depth, there's some more characteristics I can look for. Depending on how advanced our seedling is, we will actually see that the leaves with their leaflets are actually alternate from each other. We've got one coming off here, one coming off here, one coming off here, as opposed to being opposite, where they come off opposite each other from the stem. So they're alternate on a partridge pea. And so that's a good characteristic. This seedling is actually quite small to look at that, and so it's hard to tell. You know, it's just too young to develop that branching where you can see the structure of the plant. If you want to get your really good eyes out, you can start to look for what's called stipules. And stipules are a leaf-like projection at the base of the leaf stem. And so if we have our leaf here, and again, remember on a partridge pea, the leaf is actually what has all the leaflets on it. I often want to think, oh, there's like 8 leaves here or something. No, this is one leaf with 8 leaflets. So at the base of this leaf, there can be a projection called a stipule. And partridge pea does have a stipule. They're present, and it's a little bit of a, the botanists call it a leaf-like projection. In other words, it's not hair-like, or it's not absent. So it has one, and it's substantial, but it's not, you know, super huge. It is a stipule. Yet another characteristic, if you want to have your good eyeballs on, or get a hand lens, even better, some magnifying device, is to look for hairs on the stem. So partridge pea does have hairs on the stem. Now, it's not like hairs on your head where, you know, you can see them really easy. You're going to need to get your eyes, either get a magnification or really look close. Sometimes when I'm in the field, if I don't have magnification with me, I like to get it backlit. And so I don't want to put it towards the sun, but I'll find a spot, usually not towards the sky, but sometimes on a gray day, I'll put it towards the sky. And I can kind of just get it at just the right angle and I can see it. But it's really hard on this seedling here. So a hand lens sure might be helpful if you really want to look for the hairs on the partridge pea seedlings. One last characteristic that's not too hard, but it's also a little bit hard sometimes to know whether you've got it spotted or not, is the leaflet tips are pointed on the end. So they don't dip in, they aren't flat across the end, they're actually kind of pointed. But it's not like it's a knife point or something that sharp. So that's why I say it's a little subjective sometimes to tell. But once you get enough seedlings under your belt, you can actually start to go, oh yeah, of course I know what it looks like to not be pointed on the end. So now that makes more sense. But that is something you can start paying attention to, and it will also make you better at identifying this from other things because you start to put those things in your memory as well. One more characteristic, if you do want to get your good eyes going and look for hairs, like we were looking for hairs on the stem, we can also look for hairs on the edges of the leaves. Again, a hand lens is going to be very helpful there to get that magnification. One other thing, when I was destroying my seedling here, I actually am looking at its roots now, and I can see that it's beginning to nodulate. So this is a fun thing you can do to see if your seedling is nodulating. Nodulating, if you're like, what in the world is this? Nodulating is where there's a bacteria that works in conjunction with the plant. So the bacteria in the plant, they kind of are like, hey bud, you want to have a relationship here? I'll give you food. So the plant gives the bacteria food. And the bacteria is like, hey, I'll give you nitrogen. So the bacteria can actually take nitrogen out of the air, give it to the plant. The plant can't get that nitrogen. It's just not in a form that it is able to get. So it's like getting fertilizer to the plant, nitrogen fertilizer, and then in exchange, the plant feeds the bacteria. So that bacteria lives in a place called a nodule on the root. And that is just a little, different species of legumes have it differently. They can be round, or they can actually be elongated nodules. And so we can actually start to see the little round nodules on the partridge pea. So it has a relationship with those bacteria going already. So it's starting to be fed nitrogen even when it only has like, two leaves plus the cotyledons down here. And so quite early on, it is actually starting to fix nitrogen. So that's fun to see, fun to know that those bacteria are out there in the field to colonize the roots of this plant. I'm Elizabeth with Hamilton Native Outpost, and I've been out here with Colt today. Our goal at Hamilton Native Outpost is to help you be successful with plantings. We're passionate about native plants. We have the privilege of raising them and selling them, and we want to share tips and tricks with you so that you can be successful at doing native plantings. You can find our website at hamiltonnativeoutpost.com, or you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and the such. Thanks.
We at Hamilton Native Outpost make these videos to share the unique knowledge that we have gained from over 40 years of working with native plants as we raise and sell native grass and wildflower seeds. If you found this video helpful, we need your help to get the message out. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment. It helps others to find us. Thank you.